any second now, which would
Okay.
be now. Actually, we are now live. Look, I got a big indicator that it says you are live. So I'm gonna take that to mean that we're live, even though
It gives you a little message.
that's right. Even though we technically haven't done this in a while, between your
So out of practice.
right, your 1% traveling lifestyle or being sick.
I was gonna
But
say, wait a minute, this one wasn't travel.
yeah, a
This
little bit of both, I'm sure. But
was
anyways,
just
I'm ready when you are.
a lot of visitations and just muy cansado, man. Ya estoy muy cansado.
Yes, sir. Yo tengo
Como,
hambre, man.
es como
I'm
no quiero
hungry.
hacer nada, güey. Nomás aquí, nomás me quiero acostar y
Right.
comer y nomás estar aquí con la familia y todo. ¿Me entiendes,
Um,
Méndez?
Pochito, chicken, kaji. All right, you ready?
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
Let's roll it.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. What's up?
What's happening?
Exactly. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is the Dharma Time Edition. I think today's Tuesday. If you're watching this live, he's of course the one and only the Dope Doctor, and I am the Dharma guy. And together we are Dope and Dharma. You can watch us live, hopefully on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch under Dope and Dharma. And you can listen to us, as always, on any of your major podcasting platforms. Apologize ahead of time. We're a little out of practice at the moment. For those of you who are loyal followers and listeners and whatnot, we appreciate you for staying loyal and following and liking and all those things. But he was ill, and then he got me sick by proxy. I don't know how, but I'm going to blame you. Like
I sent it in the mail.
Yes, it was one of the text messages of you telling me how sick you were, and that affected me.
Yeah.
Because you got sick, and it was apparently pretty bad. And then, shortly afterwards, I ended up getting sick as well. It was either your fault or my mother-in-law, but I feel more comfortable blaming you at the moment, just
I'll
because
take
we're
it.
live. Yeah. Anyways, so we're both kind of getting over some upper respiratory things and whatnot. So if I start to cough, I'll mute myself. I promise.
Oh yeah,
But
don't do that.
yeah, I know it's been bad, man. Like yours was bad too. Like it's just weird. It's not COVID, obviously, because I've been tested. I'm sure you have as well. But gosh, it was just bad. Like I don't know. It just came out of nowhere, and it was just not fun at all. But either way, I digress. Here we are. We're back. We're doing what we do.
Stop being so self-centered.
Wow, funny you should mention that. So yes, if you guys are able to read the topic, then you know today's topic is self-centered. And yeah, let's jump right into it. I know that there's self-centered and selfish, and then apparently self-absorbed, I guess. We're not talking about the differences between all of them. Today we're kind of mostly talking about an idea that I've been seeing a lot of lately that I wanted to kind of put out there. The premise of which is it feels as if we as people collectively, because we experienced something or because we looked at something or because we have what really amounts to be a very limited knowledge on something, somehow we feel instantly that makes us an authority on the subject, and we can then offer our advice, our changes, our whatever it might be. Like we can critique whatever it is because we've done it, right? You've joked a lot before that because you drive your car doesn't mean you can work on it, right? Well, we see like there's a lot of people that feel that way, that because they watched a video or because they experienced something, they are now experts and they understand the ins and outs and they can kind of be an authority on it. And there's several instances that I can think of right off the bat that I just so happen to be an authority on, right? Because I've got schooling or whatever, and you as well. And I always find it funny when people will get an email from a friend or read an article and they'll start spouting off stuff. And if it's in the field that I just so happen to have my expertise in, it's funny to me on how off they really are. But they don't leave room for error sometimes, right? And the collective they. And so they'll spout stuff off that might have, just a percentage of truthfulness or factualness because they did watch a video or read a book or whatever, but they're ignoring the other 90%, 90+% that they don't really understand or don't know. And so
Mhm.
if you're listening to them and you know nothing, it sounds like, wow, this is great information. This person really knows what they're talking about. But if you say it to somebody who knows what they're talking about, you start to realize like it doesn't really hold water, man. Like you're
Mhm.
missing out like quite a bit, actually. Um, and so I just wanted to talk about that today because it feels like we're in a time right now that excuse me, that because of all the information we have at our fingertips, through the internet, be it
Yeah.
YouTube videos, be it actual articles or books or whatever.
Right.
Um, I feel like we're kind of dumber almost, but we don't act like it. You know what I mean? Like collectively as a society, I feel like we're all like our intelligence level has gone down slightly, but our confidence has gone up. Like we feel like we know more, and to the point to where, like I said, we'll comment on things like we've all. That's where the whole phrase "Monday morning quarterback" came from, right? For those of you who don't know anything about sports or don't watch it, whatever, Monday morning quarterback is essentially a bunch of us who watch like football on Sunday on. Come Monday morning, we're all giving our breakdown and our analysis as if we're coaches and players out on the
Right.
field, know it all. And so, like, we're prescribing, like, oh, well, they should have done this. Well, no, like to you, it looks like that, sure, but for the people in the field and who actually know what's going on, it's not that simple. And so I think that I don't know. That's what I want to talk about today, man. Like, what are your initial thoughts on this subject?
I think from back in the day, if you're going to compare it from now, from a little bit before, I'm not going to go too far back in the day. I'm just going to say maybe
Back in 1864.
no, but maybe the World Wide Web was a liar and Google's smarter. Maybe because I remember when you used to say, well, you can't believe what you see on the internet. And
Right.
now people take their facts from the internet. In other words, like if you're
Yeah,
communicating with them, they'll Google it immediately and go like, well, actually, that's not true. I just Googled it.
yeah,
This is what it says. And we take it for fact. Oh, you just Googled it? Well, that must be true.
yeah.
So something changed there too.
Yeah, well,
So
like that's the thing so we're both old enough, although I was probably in school and you weren't, but I'm old enough to
are you
remember in
saying that
my
because I was
school.
ditching?
No, because you're older. You were already graduated, but I'm talking about like when I was in high school when the internet first started to hit.
Oh yeah.
I remember being told by my teachers that you had to like if you're going to quote the internet, you had to actually quote the actual website because it mattered. Like they told you,
Right.
like for instance, you can't use Wikipedia because everybody can
Right.
can edit that and stuff. And so it's like somehow that seems like it got lost too, right?
Oh,
Like
now that's fact.
just
Wikipedia is
because
the
you
fact.
Googled, yeah, just
Right.
because you Googled it, like, well, okay, not all Google results are created equal, right? Like, what phrase did you use to Google it? What source did that come from? Like how many pages into it did you go to?
Hmm.
Like, there's a lot of different factors that are involved. But yeah, like I agree that it's like we all feel like experts, and we feel like because we Googled something and read like a 2-minute article that now I'm somehow an expert that I can kind of profess what I know on the matter.
Right. And you know what else has become true? Like public opinion. So like if
Yeah,
enough people like something
yeah,
or if enough people give it 5 stars, then it must be the best.
yeah. It's got to be
Right.
great. Case in
So,
point, the Yeezy shoes. I think they're the most atrocious looking things I've ever seen in my entire life. But people are buying them for like hundreds of dollars, and I think they look like terrible shoes. But people like seem the mainstream, like they've all agreed that those things are attractive. And I think they're disgusting. But anyway,
yeah. See, I have no problem with people being self-centered. As long as what gets me about people that are self-centered, it's not that they're being self-centered, it's the emotion or the argument that accompanies it. So like if you're emotionally invested in what you're talking about and saying to the point where you become argumentative and unreasonable, then you're not listening. That's when it becomes annoying.
Yeah.
But if you're just being self-centered and you have a viewpoint and you feel confident in your view, I have no issue with that.
I'd agree with that.
I think that you should stand for what you believe. I think you should be confident in your mindset. But when it doesn't allow you to listen to other people, listen to other perspectives, and then at least absorb a little bit of it, and if yours requires some modification based on that new absorption, then let it be modified.
Right.
But when you're concrete in your thinking and it can't be altered, regardless of what data gets inputted, then I think that's where it becomes a problem, and you become rather annoying of a person.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that, right? I'm just trying to think of so many different scenarios that come into my mind, and yeah, they all kind of stack up with what you just said in the sense that when it becomes a problem is typically when somebody is professing something or trying to offer up what they feel to be as a solution
Mm-hmm.
and not understanding that it's multifaceted. Like they're
Yeah.
not realizing, like you don't. I was there was a phrase that I heard when I was a kid that kind of stuck to me. Like the older people kept telling me, and that is, be smart enough to know what you don't know.
Right.
Right. And as I've gotten older, the more important that phrase has become to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more in depth I get into stuff, the more I learn about things, the more I realize I didn't know anything about that. It's so much more complicated than I ever thought. You know, when you're young and like I said, you read an article or you watch a YouTube video, you look at something and you think, oh yeah, that's easy. That's
Right.
something. No,
Right.
that person that you listen to broke something very, very hard and complicated down into like a soundbite that made sense to you. But what they didn't do is they didn't show you the 20 years they spent learning that to regurgitate it to you, right? Like,
Right.
I'm just thinking of simple things like just moving something around or fixing something or whatever. I'm trying to think of an example at the moment, but like a conversation you and I've gotten into over the years many a times, and I think that many people could relate to. Right, might as well just
Mm-hmm.
start in on that.
Right.
Is employment, right? Owning a business versus being an employee.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, like I've been on both sides of the fence on that one, right? Like I was an employee for many years of my life, and then
Okay.
I've become an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've seen both sides of it, and I get it from both ends. But it's like not a lot of people do, right? And what I mean by that is like as an employee, you'll look at things that are taking place that you don't agree with or that you don't like
Right.
because it affects you in a way, right? That's where the self-centeredness comes from, is you're not thinking about the company as a whole.
Right.
You're not thinking about your coworkers. You're not thinking about the bosses. You're only thinking about, I want this, I need this, and it's not adding up, so it's got to change. And what you're not realizing is a lot of your coworkers relate to whatever it is that you're talking about differently than you. We don't all have the same experience, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when Michael Jordan is talking about basketball, his experience with basketball is vastly different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's like, well, just go dunk it, it's like,
Right.
I can't, bro. Like, I don't have that ability.
Right.
Right. So I interact with the game of basketball much differently than an NBA player would. Well, same thing in everything in life, but in this particular example, talking about businesses, a lot of people think like the boss doesn't care about them, right? Like, oh, they don't care about me. And
Right.
full disclosure, I'm sure there's some that don't, right? Like I'm not,
Right.
there's opposite ends of the spectrum. There's outliers, there's business owners who truly just don't care. You're replaceable, you mean nothing to them. I'm not talking about them. What I'm talking about is the like the mom and pop business or whomever that truly does care about their employees, but there's a lot on their plate that they have to think of.
Right.
So you have the employee who's upset that maybe they didn't get a raise, right? They didn't get a raise, or instead of getting like an 8% raise, they got a 4% raise, and they're upset.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that the person doesn't care for them and everything else, right? Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds of the whole pay scale in general.
And the cost of
That
doing business. Yeah.
that's a different topic
Right.
that we'll get into another day.
Right.
What I'm talking about is the idea that maybe it's not just as simple as they didn't give you that 4% raise or the 8% because they hate you. Maybe it's not that simple. Maybe it's, hey, inflation went up and their cost of doing business has gone up. And they've got to figure out ways now to pay for certain licenses and insurances and stuff that they have to maintain in order to keep the doors open and keep the business
Right.
operational. Not to mention, yeah, they want a profit. They didn't start the business to help you. They started the business because they wanted to make money.
Correct.
And they felt they had an efficient way of making money.
Right.
So they're going to factor in a certain amount of profit with every decision that they make because they have the right to, put their kids through school and buy a nice car just as much as you do.
So are you happen to be are you talking to UPS right now, or are you talking to the Teamsters? Which are you
Both.
talking? Yeah. You're
So
very timely for some people out there. They're just about to go on
really,
strike right
oh,
now.
I
Yeah.
didn't even hear about any of that yet. Oh, you have to
Well,
fill me in later.
the Teamsters want to go on strike against UPS right now. They're
Oh,
saying
okay.
UPS is not coming to the table with
Oh,
agreeable solution, and
interesting.
UPS is saying the Teamsters have walked away from the table. So
Well, there you
as of
go.
right now, we don't know who's telling the truth.
Well, then, yeah,
But if you have a
it's
package coming by UPS, it might not be coming unless you get it
right.
unless you get it quick.
Sure. So that's one example, right? There's many
Right.
of them out there.
Right.
What really prompted this was the last few days. One of my hobbies that I've been able to do more frequently lately because I've been sick is video gaming, right? And so I've heard in the video game world they'll refer to some people as casuals and the tryhards, right? Or the no lifers. The casuals are the people who work, do whatever, and they can put an hour here, an hour there. And then the no lifers are the ones that can spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Maybe they have a streaming channel, who knows? And so it's like oftentimes the no lifers will make comments not realizing that the guy who spends an hour doesn't have the same abilities to get the things that you did after playing for 12 hours.
Right.
Or they'll look at the game and say the developers don't care because of this, or they're monetizing too much and charging too much. And it's like they're not realizing that, well, it requires money to keep that up. If you enjoy doing what you're doing, so if you're an employee of a company and you like getting a paycheck every 2 weeks and you enjoy showing up, doing your job and getting paid and going home and buying nice things, well, there's steps involved in doing that. It doesn't just appear. Like one of the examples that I still struggle with, if I'm honest, right? Like but wants to have YouTube channel at least 12 though.
Yeah.
Nice.
Katie on Facebook Live is right there with you, man.
Nice. So as an example, gosh, I just had
I'm sorry. I just thought it was relevant to what you were saying, and
yeah.
Katie's watching on Facebook Live, and I think her son should have a channel.
Yeah, right. Give him his channel. This is
What game does he play, by the way? What game is
I'm
he
going to
playing?
guess Fortnite is probably what he plays, but
Oh, is that your guess?
that's my guess. Is Fortnite,
Okay.
especially at 12 years old.
I was going to say, let me guess, but I don't think I know enough of games that 12-year-olds plays. I don't even.
Right.
I can't even guess, Trinity.
Right. But no. So like this Legend of Zelda Tears. I was totally wrong. Then no, I know Legends of Zelda just came out actually. So, but anyways, I digress. My point is, it's just that there's more things that go into that than what we realize.
Right.
And so the one that really kind of like shocked me, I guess, that I still kind of struggle with, on a humanistic level, but I see both sides yet again because of what we do for a living. And that is treatment facilities. Right. When you hear that for 30 days of treatment, it costs upwards of $30,000, to the uninitiated, that sounds crazy. It sounds like astronomical. For 30 days worth of treatment, it costs 30 grand. It's like, holy cow, that's insane. And I agree, it does. It does sound insane.
It is a lot.
It is. However, when I was talking to you guys when we were doing Tropical, when I found out that one, not all, one of the licenses that you have to have from the state in order to operate the facility was like 10 grand a month just to have that one license. And then you have like 3 other licenses you have to have. Not to mention the overhead and all this other stuff. So when you're paying out, $100,000 just to keep the doors open to take people in to help them, and you're paying $100,000 a month, suddenly that $30,000 doesn't really sound like a lot. That $30,000 doesn't even keep the lights on. You need a lot more of those $30,000 just to break even. And then that's not including the profit that you want to make, because the great therapists of the world who are phenomenal at what they do, they're not going to work for $10 an hour. They're just not. So if you want the good people, you're going to have to pay them a competitive salary. And so it's like, I don't think the people who look at that 30 grand, now granted, oftentimes if you're looking for a treatment facility, you're in crisis, and the last thing you're worried about is money. So of course you're going to complain and not really think about the people who own it, whatnot. I get it. It's a difficult time, but taking a step back and not being self-centered in it, looking at the bigger picture, it's expensive. Man, like 10 grand just for one license, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And
Well, just
then
to
the
be fair, it
payroll.
was the medical directorship. It was the medical directorship license was 10 grand. By the
Wasn't
way,
one of them like CDF or
no,
like,
no, we have DCF and all that, but it's not that much. But the medical directorship was 10,000 alone. And
yeah,
and
it's
and and,
crazy.
and by the way, the nut was $100,000 a month on day one of the month. So we started at negative 100,000 every first day of the month. So
Yeah,
that
and that's
just to break even and pay everybody and
yeah.
keep the lights on.
And that's what I mean is I don't think people realize that. Like people aren't
Right.
looking at it from that direction, right?
Right.
Same thing, and we've talked about this numerous times on the show as well, in the sense that people want to get mad at millionaires and say that they don't pay anything, but they don't want to stop to realize that the percentage that we as non-millionaires are paying towards our taxes are not fixing the roads and the my couple thousand a year in taxes or whatever is not covering the millions that it takes to. No, it's the rich people who are doing these business deals who are paying millions of taxes are the ones who are paying for the schools. And
Yeah.
I don't pay enough in taxes to pay even one teacher's salary in the local public schools. I just don't.
Mhm.
And so it's easy to be self-absorbed. It's easy to be self-centered. It's easy to only look at it from the angle that you're coming at. I get that. And as you said, my problem isn't that. My problem is when that mindset bleeds over into how you treat other people and hear other people.
Right. Yeah. You're bringing up some really good points because you're broadening the scope of just appreciating those around you, right? We can get really stuck in what we don't have in our life without appreciating all the homeowners around you.
Yeah.
That actually, if you're not a homeowner, you're not even contributing to the school in the neighborhood or the roads or the fire department or the police department, or all these things, because your property taxes go to a lot of that stuff. And so if you're a renter, you're paying towards that, but you can leave at any point in time. But the homeowner, you're obligated for those taxes and those fees and stuff like that. Even the sidewalks and stuff, you pay towards sidewalks. And if your neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks, guess what? You still paid for them.
Yeah.
You paid for them even though you don't have them.
You pay for my sidewalks.
It's just so weird. All the things that go that allow a community to be a community. So when someone within the community is complaining about the community, it's like, well, what can you do to help it? Because you have to contribute not just by absorbing oxygen. You have to contribute financially to that community. You know what I mean? Right. I'm just serious. It takes carbon dioxide, to create the oxygen, right? It takes oxygen to create the carbon dioxide, oxygen to create the carbon dioxide. It requires the whole cycle of life to happen. You can't just be a taker in this world. You have to be a giver. And so the best way to receive in this world is to give. I really believe that. I think that my life started getting worthy. It started feeling better when I started becoming more of a giver than a taker, because I do have to admit, I was more of a taker early on in my life. And once I met Dana and I started becoming a part of her life, she became part of my life. And I started walking the path with her. I think I became more of a giver, and then became what I became professionally. And then I became definitely more of a giver. And even though really I really wanted to take, but I was giving professionally, and I started receiving from that. And I started, whoa, I'm receiving much more by giving than I ever did by taking. Does that make sense? Like my pockets were more full with sustainable value by giving and receiving than by taking. Because when I was taking, although I could fill my pockets, it wasn't sustainable. It's like I had holes in the pockets. I would take, but then like the government would come take it, or somebody else would come take it, right? Or I would just throw it away and spend it because I didn't value it. Whereas when I gave and then received, I not only received in my pockets, but I received in these pockets up here in my chest, and I received, in so many different ways. And I felt warmth, and I felt embraced, and I felt appreciation, and I feel more of value. And so that made life, it makes life, I should say. It's not past tense. I'm still here. This is not an image that you're seeing. I'm live and in person. It's making life just a lot better to handle.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, it goes, it's multifaceted, this concept that we're talking about, right? Like it fits into so many different areas. As an example also would be, in interpersonal relationships and friendships, or even just as something as basic, like what immediately came to my mind, even though it doesn't fit exactly what we just mentioned, was if I were to show you a handicap sticker on a car parked in a handicap spot. Whether we all know it or not, we have our own interpretation of what that should look like.
Right.
And so if the person comes walking out strolling and they don't look like anything, our first thought, well, what handicap do they have? Well, what you don't know is there's many handicaps that you can't see, right? Like they got the tag for a reason, but yet we'll still feel like an expert on what a handicap tag means, right? And so the same thing in interpersonal relationships, right? Like we all have our own little like idiosyncrasies that we do, our own little habits. And if that habit doesn't line up with my habit, I'll look at that and say, well, how could you do that? That's stupid, or that's self-centered, or that's disrespectful, or whatever. Well, maybe it's not, right? Maybe they have just their own way of doing things. Maybe they had a reason for doing it, right? Like maybe they'll have here's a quick stupid example, right? I guarantee you my wife gets irritated sometimes because she'll drink out of this cup that she uses all the time. And she'll leave it on the counter, and I'll go and do dishes or something, and I'll leave it there. And I guarantee you, I haven't even talked to her about it, but I guarantee you from her perspective, she's probably thinking, what an asshole. Why is he not washing his cup? Why is he just leaving it there? But what she's not realizing,
I don't even need to ask my wife. I know that's what she's thinking.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
She'll tell me, wait a minute, did you just leave this here knowing I was going to do it?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's a magic spot. When you put stuff there, it automatically disappears.
Well, but there's another side to that equation, right?
Right.
I'm a for those of you who haven't seen me in person, I am a large human being. My hands literally will not fit into the cup that she drinks. I have no way of washing it. And so I don't want to just rinse it out and give her a dirty ass cup and expect her to drink from it. Right? Uh-oh. Go ahead.
Trinity. I don't think many hands fit in those cups. You gotta buy one of those things.
We don't have one.
Well, but once you buy one, then you will.
Well, then when she buys one, we'll have it. I don't have that problem. My hand can fit into the cup I drink. My point is,
Leo's watching on Facebook Live. He's going to jump in there and try to use that with Lisa. He's going to say his hand don't fit either. No,
but literally, she has like these little like it's like a I don't know. It's the thing that she has hand washing.
She has cup washing hands, is what you're saying?
Yeah, her hands fit. My point is, she's only looking at it from her perspective, probably, and saying, well, he's just doing this on purpose. He's not realizing that because she does that a lot, right? There's a lot of things in our house that I'll see her move or do something, not realizing like, okay, that doesn't work for me. Like I bump into this, or I do this, or whatever.
Right.
So, obviously those are trivial. They're nonsensical examples, but they're examples nonetheless of how daily we do get so self-centered.
Right.
That we don't stop to realize that there's a whole other like life that's happening over here. Like there's other key components to it. Things are oftentimes more complicated than we want to admit.
So I guess what you're saying is that Angel's self-centered, and she tries to project that self-centeredness onto you.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So she thinks that you're being self-centered by your actions.
Exactly.
Right.
But like another example of like how things are complicated when we don't know what we don't know. Right. And this is probably going to ruffle some feathers if people are into this dynamic and reach out to me on the side, and we'll have that conversation. But the further I got into my master level certification stuff into the health and fitness, the more I realized that we don't know anything when it comes to health and fitness.
God knows that.
Right. As an example, we've all heard, I guarantee you we've all had a friend that's probably said this. We've all seen a documentary on Netflix, or we've all gotten an email or whatever it is that states that X, Y, and Z ingredient affects us in a certain way, right? Saturated fat, unsaturated fats, carbohydrates, fats, whatever it is, just pick one. And it affects your body this way. We've all heard that. I'm here to tell you, as somebody who's actually been in this field, it's complete bullshit. We don't know. It is impossible to take one ingredient and decide how that one ingredient is affecting somebody. You can't study it, because even if you have a placebo and you have multiple people, there's no way of knowing each individual's genetics, each outside stimulants or outside things that affect them, what else they ate with it. Like, it's impossible to limit it down to one key ingredient and how it affects every single person on the earth in their bloodstream. But it doesn't stop people from spewing this stuff and saying, oh, well, stay away from this because it's going to do that.
Right.
Bullshit. We don't know that. We truly, truly just don't know that. There's a very few things that we know because it's like universally able to be studied. But my point is, you'll read an article or your friend will tell you, and then you'll think and spout out as if it's fact, not realizing that it's a lot more complicated than that.
Right.
And I know in the line of work that you're in and I'm in, both with the physicality of things and also the mentality of things, how many times have you heard somebody say with an addict, well, just stop drinking? Well, like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it sounds that simple, but it's a lot more complicated. And if you're not in this industry or you've never dealt with somebody in the addiction field, be it recipient or purveyor, you don't understand it's a lot more complicated than just don't drink today. Right. Like, it's a lot more to it. And that's kind of where I'm leaning more towards, is this idea that we get so locked into what little bit of information we have, and we forget that things are a lot more complicated than this little tiny sliver that we're looking at.
We also like to take credit for things that are more genetic, or take credit for things that are like given to you by other reasons. It's not your own doing.
Yes.
Like, I love it when Dana would go like, well, I just do this. And I'm like, well, Dana, the whole world interacts differently to you than it does to other people. You know, Dana's got this interesting thing, and it's like a glow, right? The way wherever she walks in the world, it's like everything just opens for her. It's like this incredible Trinity. It's an amazing glow.
Sure.
And when I'm around her, I even get some of the glow. I even start shining, and I feel brighter and shinier, like a little spinner on the end of a fishing rod. And all of a sudden things come my way. Leo say, "No way, she is an angel. She is an angel," and it's different. So I think we all need to understand that the world interacts differently with each one of us in its own unique way. Yep. And so, number one, we're emitting our own energy, and then we look a certain way. So that's emitting a different aura, right?
Sure.
And then people are different, and they're in their own lives. They're thinking about the zit on their forehead, not yours. And yet, you misread that into believing like, why are they looking at me like that? Well, it's because you're not knowing that what they're thinking is, do you notice the zit on my forehead? And the way you interpret it was, I think he's disrespecting me. And so we're constantly misreading each other. And then we all get emotional and argumentative, and then we go home and tell somebody about it. And the person we tell about it goes like this: why are you telling me this? What do I care? Oh, you don't listen to me, or you don't care, and boom, there goes the fight. And the dog gets kicked at the end of the night, like they always do. Yep. Poor dogs. There's no dogs kicked over here, by the way. I'm an owner of dogs and love dogs, and they can verify that they're not kicked, as evidenced by they're all just laying around right now.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting world. When you talk about self-centeredness, another issue that gets on me about when someone is in active self-centeredness is unsolicited information. Sometimes we just have to be a listener. Sometimes people just want you to listen. And I know, at least in my relationship, that's my job. My occupation is listener.
Right.
Dana is not asking for opinions. Dana's not asking for my viewpoint. As a matter of fact, if she wants my viewpoint, she will specifically ask me, what do you think about that? But the question I get more frequently than what do you think about that, or what should I do, is, did you hear what I just said? Are you listening to me? I get that question more often because my face must, as much as I'm listening, Trinity, I think my face must glaze over to like, why the hell am I in this situation? How do I get out of it?
You have resting, not paying attention face.
I don't think I do, Trinity, but I think she knows me very well, and she catches it, and she's like, she always asks me this question at the right time.
What did I just say?
What did I just say? And I'm like, and it's like I'm a kid in class that just got told that we're having a quiz, and I'm like,
yeah,
what? C is the answer. C,
right?
Right? So, but I think the unsolicited information is never a good thing. I think that sometimes it's just really hard, even though you can relate to the person, or you want to relate to the person. Sometimes your occupation at that moment, or your intent, their intention for releasing on you, is for you to simply be a receptacle and just receive it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that was something that I've had to learn in my life, right? Because I do consider myself well read, right? I mean, I watch a lot of stuff, read some things, I've learned a lot of things. And so when I would hear somebody mention something, I used to take that as an opportunity of thinking, I can fix it. Let me tell you this. And it got me in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And so I have learned over the years to just oh, that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Whatever, you know, I'll listen to it and I'll wait for them to ask. If they ask me, and even then, sometimes like my wife will ask me, and even then, I'll preface it by saying, okay, well, what kind of advice are you looking for? Right? Are you looking for
Right.
the right thing to do or the one that's going to feel
Right.
good?
Right.
And part of the way I do that is by not being self centered. And what I mean is I've learned over the years that when I'm hearing something, number one, I'm hearing their perspective of it.
Right.
I'm not hearing what happened. I'm hearing their interpretation of what happened. And secondly, I don't know all the other factors that are involved in whatever that situation was.
Right. Right.
And so if I'm going to give my advice or whatever, the first thing I'm going to do, other than make sure that's what you want, is I'm going to gather more facts. Right? Like I'm going to want to know, okay, well, why did this happen? What are the intent? I'm going to need to know more information. It's because I've learned I don't know what I don't know. And I think that is an important rule of life. And I wish more people would say it. Be smart enough to know what you don't know.
I 100% mimic that. The only difference that I would add to that is that I'm naturally self-centered. I have to acknowledge that I'm here for you at the moment when I'm interacting with another human being, because most of my time is spent without another human being around me. So most of the time I'm allowed to be self-centered and just do what I want to do, how I want to do it. And, and I just do my thing, right? I'm working, I'm doing something. And then when another human comes in my orbit, I have to actively switch from it's all about me to like, all right, you're in my orbit for what purpose? Like, what's my purpose to you? So I have to, I have trained myself to just try to figure out what is my purpose to this person in front of me. Not what I want the purpose to be, but what is my value to that person? Because I think servitude is just I think it humbled me. It taught me humility. You know what I mean? To be there for them instead of just for me. That's how I got rid of the taker and I started being a giver. Is just think what kind of service am I providing to this person? And I didn't read the book, but I heard a lot about the title was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I love never reading a book, but feeling like I did because I've heard the title so much that I feel like, how do you not know what the book's about? I know what the book's about by the title. It's such a great title. I think I know what I'm. I'm going to go right to the end result. Right? It's like reading the back of the book. Got it.
Give me the cliff notes.
Yeah. I think I know what I'm supposed to get out of this. At the end of this, I'm supposed to get that I'm supposed to somehow be there for you, and then you're going to enjoy the interaction a lot more by you going, wow, I walked away from that great because you were able to speak, be heard. I actively listened. I gave you feedback only when offered, only when asked to, and then you walked away and go, God, that was a good interaction. And yet I never said a dang thing. All I did was,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is Nancy's seen it right there. So I'm going to put it up. Yes, Nancy on Facebook Live. Listen as you want to be heard. And that is an important thing that I think most of us just need to do is just listen. Yeah. Just what is being told to you. And we've done shows on narratives and we've done shows on all that stuff. We're looking at how to fill it and how to fill in the blanks. Sometimes you don't need it.
Yep.
You don't need to fill in the blanks. And look, I'm 30 years married. And by the way, congratulations, Leo. I think he said on Facebook Live, 43 years married tomorrow. That's
awesome. Good.
Congratulations, Leo and Lisa, for being 43 years married tomorrow. The only way to get there is you have to be a participant and be a listener and just know your role. Yeah. I'm here to support you. I'm here to smile when you want me to smile. I'm here to lie to you when you want me to lie to you. And you have to know what they mean when you're supposed to be truthful and when you're supposed to be a liar. And trust me, it's a skill, Trinity.
Yeah,
when they look at you and ask you a question, you better know, is this a lying moment or is this a truthful moment?
Yeah.
So, and the whole thing is just, I'm here to make you feel as good as you can because I want you to do it for me. I want to feel special. I want to feel smart. I want to feel valued. I want to feel appreciated. I want to feel like there's nobody else on earth that can give you the feelings that I'm giving you. And that's how you have to be with each other. Sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. Sometimes it comes easy. Sometimes you have to lie about it. Sometimes it's the truth. But every day is a different day. You know what I mean? Or should I quote Kamala? Every day is a what? What did she say?
I don't even know.
Every day. I don't know what she said recently, but it was something equally as ridiculous as a lot of other things she says. But go ahead.
Well, there's another phrase that I can think of that, when people hear it, they probably think it's kind of harsh, but there's some truth to it. It's not all about you.
It's definitely
You know
not
what I mean?
about
Like, that's the thing, is it's just not all about you. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, like
Mhm.
you gotta, take that, put it in your pocket, man, and take it around with you. And you could probably use that in almost every situation that you come
Yeah.
across in life. It's not all about you.
Mhm.
It's not about what you think or how you feel about it or what you experienced or what you think should
Mhm.
happen or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
Right.
Oftentimes, we're all living in our own little world, doing our own little thing, as you said before.
Mhm.
And so we got to realize that because it's not all about us, we might not have the answer. Right. And like you said, sometimes it doesn't require an answer. Sometimes it just requires listening. But my point in all that is just that God, we're not as smart as we think we are. We don't know as much as we think we do. And
Mhm.
I know we discussed some of this, some overlap with our narrative show that we just did a couple weeks
There's
ago.
probably gonna be a lot of overlap. I mean, how
Yeah.
many you can't do thousands and thousands of shows
Yeah.
since 1999 and not have
Yeah.
overlap, Trinity.
Exactly. But there's truth, man. It's just not about you. Like, not everybody walks through the world experiencing the same thing that you experience, right? Like, we all, well, like I said, like even myself, between the two of us, there's differences between the two of us.
Mhm.
And even though we can walk into the same room and walk away with completely different vibes or completely different experiences, right?
Right.
Like we joked a lot, like my wife is able to, just on the way, I went and picked her up today on the way here. She had to get on the phone and she had to deal with like a customer service rep type thing, right?
Mhm.
And the way she handled that, I could never do. Like I could hear the frustration in her voice. I can see the animation happen. She was kind of like losing her patience with somebody, right? But as a 5 foot, like I think she's like 5'3", as a 5'3", 120-some-pound girl, like she's allowed to get kind of animated, right? Like she's able to do that.
120
Me,
some pounds.
I think she's 125. I don't know. She doesn't care about that.
This cup is 120
Yeah,
pounds. This is
dude, I was more than 125 when I was in middle school. But regardless, at somebody who's 6'3", much heavier than 125 pounds.
Your arm is 127 pounds. Show us the arm, Trinity.
For real, dude, I weighed 200 pounds in middle school. So, I mean, if that gives you an indication. But my point is, me going into somewhere and raising my voice and getting animated, it's probably going to result with a different
Right.
experience than what she got. People are going to look at me and say, hey, you know what, maybe we should call the cops or something on this guy. So my point is just this concept or this notion that we know all of it, and we just, our experience is the same experience as everybody else. So therefore
Right.
our information is just as valid as their. No, you know what I mean? Like I can't, my solutions won't work for everybody, just like their solutions won't work for me,
Right.
because they experience the world differently. And so that's where the listening comes in, and that's when you're giving advice or when you're spouting your opinion on things.
Mhm.
Keep in mind that not everybody has the same value system, the same experiences, the same worldview. Like, it's going to be different, and that's okay, right? Like, and that's what I mean by it's not about you. It really isn't. And Richard said on our Facebook, he said, "What? My feelings don't dictate everyone else's reality." I'm shocked. I sense the sarcasm, but you're 100% right.
That's
Like,
right,
I think
yeah.
we need to hear that. Like, we need to understand
No.
that there's so much more to things than what we want to give credit.
And
Just-
you know the hard thing though, Trinity, is that we're learning. We're constantly learning, right? And what we're learning right now as a society is, as much as each one of us want to be heard, and we have felt that we're going to be better for you as a person if we tell you, hey, I'm hearing you and I'm listening to you. We actually translated that into, not only am I hearing and listening to you, but what you're saying has so much validity that it lessens someone else's validity. And that's not the message that we were supposed to be giving.
Yeah.
We have to understand that just because someone is validating our feelings doesn't invalidate someone else's feelings.
Yes.
And just because what I'm thinking or saying has some sort of value to it doesn't devalue everything that you're running with, even though it's complete opposite. Both have value and both deserve equal attention and respect. And you shouldn't disrespect one over the other.
My favorite phrase, man. Two things can be true. You know,
Amen to
more than
that.
one thing can be true. Like that's
Yeah.
you hit it right on the head. Is oftentimes we think one instantly negates the other one, right?
Mhm.
Another example that comes to my mind that I thought was interesting. There's a big debate going on right now because here in the U.S. the Supreme Court just made a decision about affirmative action, right? And I've heard two completely different stances on that, and they're both from people who would be affected by that, mind you. Um,
Mhm.
One stance is, hey, I can't get ahead. I need that opportunity extended to me. Otherwise I wouldn't get that opportunity.
Mm.
Okay, that's one stance. But then I
Right.
heard the other stance of, hey, I don't want to feel as if the only reason why I was given that opportunity wasn't because I was qualified, but because I fit
Right.
a quota.
Mm.
Both of those are valid,
Right.
right? And so it's not as it's complicated. We want to think that, the problem is like we're so knee jerk, right? So
Right.
we talked to this first person and we were walking away, we thinking, well, that's crazy. We need to have this in place. And we feel like, yeah, we're justified. And then we'll turn around and we'll say it to the second person. And the second person tells us their story. We're like, oh, well, yeah, that's right. I agree with that. And we'll turn around. It's like, well, they're both true.
Mm.
And the point here is you don't know. It's not about your perspective. It's both of their perspectives, and both things are true.
Right. Right.
And so it's like this notion that we heard somebody's story, or we read a paragraph somewhere, or we watched a video, or we took a class one time in high school. Like, it doesn't mean you know everything,
Right.
right? There's so much more to it. It's so much more complicated than what you're giving it credit for. Like,
Right.
pump the brakes a little bit, and don't be so concrete in your thinking.
Right.
Understand, like, I'm gonna say it again. Be smart enough to know what you don't know. Right.
And what if you can't have it? What if you just can't have it? Look, we say it a lot. Like, we can't all be Michael Jordan, right? You just can't have it.
Yeah.
Like, you may want to play. I know a lot of people that would love to play basketball for a living. They love it. They'd want to play it. Maybe they're good. Maybe in their neighborhood they're the best it's ever been.
Right.
But you're still not going to play. Not only are you not going to play in the pros, you're probably not even going to play in college. You know what I mean? You just can't have. So why is it that we understand that with sports, but we don't understand that with other aspects of life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at someone else's outcome and you go, God, man, I want that outcome. You probably can't have that outcome no matter what. And even if you had it, you might not even value it the same way that person's currently valuing it. You don't know what it took that person to get it. You're assuming that you understand what it took that person to get it. You're probably not willing to do all the sacrifices that person did to get it. Now, you're probably focused on one factor of how that person got it. So you think that's the only factor of how they got it, but you don't know everything they do. Like, for instance, my lifestyle. Even my kids will still ask sometimes, what do you do? Listen, you can't do what I do. There's no way to teach what I do for a living. I somehow know how to hunt in a certain way, but I know how to work and never look like I'm working. That's how I work. Now, I am lucky enough that I found how to utilize my skill set to get me paid. But if I can't teach it, you can't mimic it. It doesn't work that way. I just have to accept what I got, right? Other people can't have it, just like I can't have someone else's outcome. I look at it and I go, man, how did they get that? But I can't seem to get it. But the reason I can't seem to get it is because probably I'm not willing to do during the day or during the night or whatever to get it. Or I didn't set myself up properly. Like, some of us just screwed up early in life so that you constantly put yourself on a different path. You just did. You put yourself on a different path. And other people kept walking down a path, like the game of life, where it says you can either go to school or not. You know what I mean? And then you go to school and you get the worst. You ever play life and you get the worst job you don't get the physician, you don't get the attorney, you get the real crappy one, and you go like, that's all I make, and I went to college, right? Yeah, that's all you make. You went to college and you picked the wrong. You picked the wrong degree. Like, you picked one that sounded good or felt good or it was easy to pass. But how are you going to make money off that degree? I happen to make money off a degree that people don't make money off of. They just don't. but I just found a way to make it. So those are, sometimes luck is involved. Sometimes it's a perfect mixture of luck, skill, and active awareness, like creating opportunities and attacking those opportunities. But you have to know people. You have to be in the right situations. You have to know how to act when you get those situations handed to you. And that's every interaction, not just financially, not just business. It's every
Yeah.
interaction. You know, it's easy to see when it comes to occupation. It's easy to see when it comes to money. What's not easy to see is when it comes to general just happiness. But all that, what I just explained, also happens with just regular happiness. You just have to learn how to attack certain situations, how to be present for certain situations, see when they're there. Some of you are unhappy because a real good thing that could have made you happy is right there, but you're so busy being frustrated over here that you ignored it. It was right there, and you chose not to embrace it at the moment because you're so stuck in your frustration. You're so stuck in your pity party that you didn't allow that to be what it was, and that could have been so good for you. But at that moment, it just frustrated you and made you upset, and you just said, "Oh, you're too happy. Get the hell away from me. I don't want to hear happiness right now."
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned something that I think bears
Mhm.
digging in a little bit more, and that is, once again, it just coincides with everything we've been saying, and that is,
Mhm.
have you ever seen that picture where it shows like expectation versus reality, where it shows like business and they think it's like a straight line and it's actually like this curvy line,
Mhm.
or the other one that I see a lot is we look at a glacier and all we
Yeah.
see is the part that's hanging at the top
Yeah.
of the water. We're like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, look at that.
Yeah.
But what you don't see is underneath the water is just
Yeah.
this massive hunk of ice, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think we do that a lot.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I mean, that it contributes to this weird awareness that we
Mhm.
think that we have.
Yeah.
Uh, I teach my kids this all the time now because my son has this really bad habit of looking at somebody who has something that he would want or whatever and say, oh, they're so lucky. And I have to and I make a point every time he says this. Hold up, that's not luck, buddy.
Mhm.
They worked for that. They
Mhm.
did what they had to do to make that
Mhm.
a reality.
Mhm.
It's not luck. It's they did the work necessary to arrive at that space.
Mhm.
And so I think that we do that a lot because once again, we'll watch a video or we'll see somebody on social media and like, whoa, they're good at this. Like I'll keep it with the physical realm, right?
Mhm.
As somebody who's in the health and fitness world for many years now, I'll be the first to tell you a lot. And this might come as a shocker for people, but a lot of these people that you see on like Instagram and stuff who are all
Mhm.
ripped and look fantastic, let me break it to you. Let me be the first to break it to you, I guess, is number one, a lot of them have great genetics. Number two, there's a tremendous amount of airbrushing and editing that takes place in those pictures. And here's a dirty little secret that most of them won't tell you. Most of them, I'm going to say a high percentage, at least 80%, if not more, are on some sort of help. And when I say help, I mean steroids, HGH, some sort of injectable or ingestible that's helping them maintain that physique. But they don't tell you that, right?
Right.
And the ones who did earn it, like I remember
Mhm.
myself years ago when I did
Mhm.
my first physical transformation,
Mhm.
all the people saw was like the 90 some pounds that I lost, back in the day. What they didn't see was the strict diet that I was on for I don't know how long, the 2 and 3 hour gym days that I was there, how many
Mhm.
parties I didn't go to, or
Right.
I didn't go out to these things or whatever. Instead, I went to the gym or I did whatever. They didn't see the hours and hours and hours, right?
Right.
Even with what you do, right? Like if people look into what it takes to get a cap, you can't just go and take a test. Like you got to
Mhm.
have hours and hours of actual
Mhm.
experience in doing these things. And so it's like we look at a video and we look at this person who's made it look easy
Right.
and we think that we understand.
Yeah.
No, there's so much more that went into that.
Mm-mm.
And so for you to even comment on it, it's kind of disrespectful to the person's
Right.
time, right?
Right.
And the last thing I'll say on that one is another way I've heard it told to me over the years that I've stolen. I don't remember who I heard it from, but
Mhm.
somebody complained one time about like a charge, right? Like I don't remember in what context, so I'll just use myself. Um, if somebody wanted to, if I wanted to, like somebody came to me and they wanted to lose weight, right? They wanted to have a program designed for them to exercise and lose weight, right? And I give them a rate, and they look at that rate and they get upset by it. They say it's too much, or it's this, or it's that, right? And if you look at it as you're paying me for the amount of time that it's spent to actually put that together and everything else, you're probably right. That seems like a crazy number. Why would I do that? It only took me 20 minutes to do, right? But what you're not paying for that. You're paying for the almost 20 years that I've spent accumulating that knowledge and that ability to create that plan for you. All the years that I've been doing this, all the books that I've read, all the people that I've trained over the years, that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for that 20 minutes that it took me to put it together, because what you're not realizing is I can do that in 20 minutes because I've been doing it for 20 years. And so that's what you're paying for. That's what you're interacting with, right? And so when you're interacting with these other people, right, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the result of all the labors. And so stop comparing your effort to their effort. Does that make sense?
Oh no, 100%. Because like earlier when I said luck, I didn't remember the quote, but I'm remembering it now. Is that when they say preparedness meets opportunity,
Yeah.
right? You have to be prepared for whatever opportunities come,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what some people are just better at that than a lot of others, right? And so the people that are better at keeping themselves prepared for that magic moment that's going to come, right? They appear to be lucky, but no, they work for that. Like you hear of those actors that got discovered like when they were serving, I mean,
Yeah.
well, the same person that discovered them, was served many more times than just once. They went to 1,000 different restaurants. They went to 1,000 bars, but that person that day, they were shining,
Yeah.
because they were constantly shining for that one moment that somebody might see them,
Yeah.
or maybe that's just what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then so it worked out. And so you have to appreciate other people's success. And when you appreciate other people's success or other people's good fortune, it allows you to accept yours. You can't just poo-poo on everybody else's good fortune. If you do, then what you do is you create a dark cloud above yourself, and all you do is poo-poo yourself. That's what you're really going to be doing. You're going to constantly just be negative about your existence, and that's not going to do you any good. That's just going to get you in a funk. It's going to lower your energy level. It's going to lower your appreciation of self and expectation of self, and then you're going to work less. You're going to strive less, and we do that a lot. Unfortunately, we all have that in us. It's a fight. No matter who you see out there, it's a fight that everyone has. Everyone has a fight of appreciating themselves and appreciating their situation and their surroundings. And I think that's what's forgotten. Like when you say it about exercise, you see, and that's why I say sport like shows us really well. Like sport
Right.
and exercise shows us, because it's physical, so it's outward, what we have to be doing inside all the time, right?
Yeah.
In order to keep that, if you have a six pack, if you're out there and you have a six pack, you know how much work it takes to keep a six pack. Like that is not easy. You could be strong and not have a six pack because there's so much that goes into what you can't do, more than what you can do to get the six pack, right? And so that's inside happiness, and that's inside gratitude, and that's inside appreciation, that inside good emotion and healthy internally. It's the same thing. You have to exercise on it every day. You have to do those exercises every day. And you have to work on it. And there's certain things you just can't put in your system. There's certain things that some of you are putting in your system that doesn't work for you. Some things you're putting in your system that makes you sluggish. There's certain things you're putting in your system that makes you feel doubt, makes you feel uncomfortable, makes you feel ugly, makes you feel unworthy. And those things just don't work for you. Instead of going to the gym, like let's take the gym out of it, there's certain places that some of you are going or you're surrounding yourself with, that you're surrounding yourself around people that are making you feel bad, making you feel horrible, not making you feel worthy or even motivated. And so you have to watch where you go. See, when it comes to physical exercise, you know where to go. Go to the gym. Go here. Create it here. So that same attitude, think internally, and what can I do internally that looks just like that outwardly? That's not easy. That's not easy because to put the work in is really difficult. It's much easier to just lay down and do nothing.
Well, of course it is. Absolutely, man.
Unless you're ADHD and you can't lay down and do nothing.
Yeah.
You have to get up and go do something. So
sure.
Anyway.
I think that's all we got for today, man. I feel good about it.
I think I'm spent.
It's our first show back. I think we're both kind of like reeling from illnesses.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, do you have any final words before I do the little wrap up, or was that your final one?
Yeah, no tengo nada. Ya
lo
dije.
Well, before I give my wrap up, as always, I appreciate everybody for watching, listening, tuning in, however it is you're ingesting us. Future reference, by all means, you can always watch on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch under Dope and Dharma, and you can listen via podcast on any of your major podcasting platforms, also on Dope and Dharma. And you can follow us on social media at Dope and Dharma, or individually at the Dope Doctor and at the Dharma Guy. Yeah, I'll say that just once again, man, it's not all about you, and be smart enough to know what you don't know. I think those are the two most simple cliche things that are 100% true that I would, if you only take two things away from our entire show tonight, let those be the two things. Be smart enough to know what you don't know, and it's not all about you. I think that's all I got. That's the best way to end it right there. So that's it. So now that you know better, do better. Peace.